Okay, hey everybody. Hope you've all had a good day so far. Yeah, my day's been pretty good. Just mostly been programming random stuff. Oh, okay. Yeah, I just opened up Unity and it's giving me this weird error I haven't seen before, but hopefully that's not a bad sign of things to come. But yeah, so today we're going to work some more on the board game project. I know last stream I said I'd probably just finish it that night, but then I remembered that I haven't yet done the like the code to find out who's wins or loses, so I thought that might be kind of interesting to do on stream. So I will spend one more day on this. So when we finished off yesterday, we had gotten the piece to move to the selection, but we can see there's still some things that we have to clean up. If I look here, this singleton entity has our flow components on it. And so right now it's stuck in the move piece phase, which we need to change. Oops, I haven't even opened up Visual Studio yet. So what we want to do is switch the face from move piece once the piece has been moved. So really, yeah, the piece moves always during that frame, so we could just go ahead and switch to the next phase on the next frame, but I think I want to try and make it a little bit more smart about it so that if we ever add animation later, it will be easy to adapt the system to that. Alright, so we go into components. Okay, we have the turn cleanup phase, which I guess is good. I want to make just a message or an event component, and this will just be piece move complete message. And it's not going to have anything more any more data on it. So we're just going to have a job create that entity, and then on the next frame some other system will watch for that, and when it sees it, it will switch to the next phase. So in order to do that, we need to have an entity archetype, so we can create the message entity. And then we want to get a reference to the entity command buffer system, which will create the entity at this whatever time I specify. Alright, so the archetype is pretty simple. We just tell it to create an archetype, and we want the type just to be that message that I just wrote. Yeah, so the piece move complete message. And then the buffer system, let's have this event be created at the beginning of the next frame. So in order to do that, I would get an existing system, and we want to get the begin initialization command buffer system. So this will run at the beginning of the initialization phase. Which, speaking about that, I forgot to tell this to update in the simulation group. Okay. Alright, and I think I'll just create another job here, which will handle just creating that message when the set position worker is finished. So create message worker. It'll just be a simple job. Let's go ahead and implement the interface. And what this will need is a reference to the archetype. I can tag this as read only because we don't change it during this job. And then we'll want to get the entity command buffer. And then here it'll just be as simple as saying buffer.create entity with this archetype. Okay, and then here we will just schedule this new worker. So, or wait, it was message creation worker, wasn't it? Or create message worker. And we'll pass it the buffer and the archetype. And okay, then we just need to tell it to schedule and to run after the previous job. And then, of course, whenever we use a buffer, we need to tell the buffer system to wait until this job runs to rewind or execute the commands in the buffer. Okay, so yeah, that's good. And now let's go ahead and create a class that will listen for that message and then change the flow or the phase. And since last stream, I actually figured out how to make some templates in Visual Studio, so it should be a little bit easier to do now. Alright. Oops, I forgot to name it, but... okay, let's rename this to... I guess... Piece Move Complete Watcher. Alright, and then we're just gonna need to require singleton, and it will be the piece move phase. And this just tells Unity to only call on update if an entity with this component exists in the system. And then we also want to get a reference to the entity query or any of those messages that we created in the other system. So we just get entity query, and this will just be a simple one. I guess I should still use the component type read only. What was it? What did I call it? Oh, I don't know why that didn't show up a second ago. Okay, so this query will find all entities in the system that have this piece move component on them. And then we also want to make sure that update is only called if the query has any entities, so we just need to pass it to this function. Okay, so now update will only run if this query has some entities inside of it and some entity with a turn move piece phase exists. So what we want to do is we want to destroy all these message queries because we don't, or all the message entities because we don't need them anymore. And we want to remove the component of this turn move piece phase on the command singleton. And we want to add the cleanup phase to this. Okay, so what this does, I guess, is it is going to remove all the information that we had from this phase that we don't need anymore. And it will also figure out if a player has won or not. So first, let's just make sure that everything is working. Take it just a little bit to compile. Alright. Oh yeah, I should probably take away the hard-coded 5 for the roll as well, but... okay, so this message exists. Oh, it did change to the turn cleanup phase, but it didn't destroy this component, or this entity for some reason. But anyway, so we want to remove this complete message. We want to remove this dice roll result. We want to remove it's different here. Oh yeah, those are starting spaces. Okay. We want to remove this turn player input and the turn move choices. These should have been removed earlier, actually, but okay. Alright, so first let's take care of getting rid of these extra move choice. This will be a component system. Alright, so let's see, move, choice, destroyer. Okay, so we want this to run in the, or let's see, require singleton for update. We want this to run during the turn piece move phase. Why is it not? Oh, the namespace is wrong. Okay, that must not be the right name. Alright, so it's move piece phase. Oh yeah, and this is requires singleton for update. Okay, and so we want to destroy all of the move options. Yeah, it's these turn move choices, because we don't need them anymore. Alternatively, I could leave them and just destroy the model and then destroy these later, but I don't think it really matters. Okay, so what we need here is an entity query for all the choices. And this will just be I want the capital T version. What was this? Oh yeah, move. It's called like turn, move, choice, I think. And then we want to make sure that we have at least something in there, so we'll require that query for update. Okay, so I think all I have to do is just delete these. Do I want to do it at a specific point, or do I want to just use post update commands? Why don't we just go ahead and do it at the next frame? So we'll get, again, the begin initialization, entity command buffer system. We want to destroy all the entities in that query. Oh yeah, I have to tell it to create command buffer. We can just pass the query to it. And we don't have to give this a job handle because we're just doing this on the main thread, so we don't have to worry about us not being done by the time this command buffers run. Okay, so I think this is good. So if we just do this, it's not going to delete the models because the models are disconnected. So I'm trying to think about how I want to deal with that. The easiest way is probably just to have another destroyer class like this that kind of does the same thing as this and just deletes the models whenever the turn move piece phase is active. Could be a little bit more special about it or not special, what's the word, I guess? Controlling about it and have the models get destroyed when it notices that the entity is gone. That's quite a bit more complicated. Yeah, I think there's some stuff you can do by like getting events when a component gets destroyed. But I think it might be a little bit overkill for this. So yeah, this will be the destroyer. It's going to be actually a lot like this, so I think I'll... Actually, is it? Might actually be more like the creator. Oh. Okay, but I don't need any of this stuff. All I just really need to do is look in the visual registry and destroy all the models on it when it gets to a certain phase. So this is the turn move piece phase. Okay, and pretty much zero I less than visual registry active visuals count. Oh, accidentally destroyed how we get our handle on this registry. So since this is mono behavior, we can just use find object of type. And this works because we only have one scene for this game, so we don't have to worry about when this scene is loaded. But if you have multiple scenes, you need to be a little bit careful because well, I don't know if that's true always, but usually systems are created right when the game loads, so if the scene isn't loaded at that point, then this could be an issue, but it'll be fine for this. So we want to destroy every object in here. And then we can just clear the list. Alright, and I want this to update in the presentation system group. Alright, so let's go ahead and try this out. Once it's done compiling. Oops, accidentally left the game running. Okay, let's go ahead and get rid of that dice hard code 5 because we don't really need to test the splitting anymore. I fixed that bug. Okay, so we'll roll the dice. Oh, it got a 6. Okay, so now, oh, and all of the, you can see that the choices disappeared like I wanted. Alright, so good, we're ready to move on. So I'm going to write down, okay, so this piece move complete message should have already been destroyed. Why did it not? Yeah, because I tell it to destroy every entity in that query. I wonder if it's because... Oh, okay, this should be... Okay, I think I know what's going on. Let me look here and see. So right now that was in the simulation system group. And yeah, it moved after the... Did it? Yeah, it moves after the piece mover system. So what's happening is the piece mover system ran again and created a duplicate message. Or not duplicate, but a second message. And then that was created at the next frame. But this move complete watcher deactivated because this phase was removed. So it's not going to run anymore. So that's why that message just sticks around in memory. But that should be fixed by moving this complete watcher up into the initialization phase, because it will change to the turn cleanup phase before the piece mover gets a chance to run again. Let's go ahead and test that. Alright, so roll. This time we rolled a 2. Oh, okay. It's still there. Let's see. Oh, but the watcher... Oh. Okay, it's because I didn't save because I didn't want to trigger a recompile until I had a chance to check out what was going on. Okay, so that was silly of me, but... Just gotta wait a few seconds for it to compile again. No big deal. Okay, yeah, so we'll roll, choose. Okay, good, and the message is not there. Alright, so let's look through here and see what entities I want to get rid of. The dice roll result. I guess I'll just make a list here, so remove entities during cleanup. I can spell cleanup. Roll result. And okay, these are all the valid moves, so no, that stays. Okay, turn move player input. Alright, I guess that's really it. So yeah, well, we want to remove those 2 entities. And then we'll want to figure out if any player has gotten to the goal and decide what will run, or what player gets to move next. Alright, so let's just, I'll just create one system to do this. This will be the turn cleanup entity destroyer. Okay, and will this require singleton for update? Oh, and again, it's in the wrong. I really wish I could get rid of that assets at the beginning, but as far as I know, there's no easy way to do that in a template. Okay, so we'll need a couple entity queries here. So this will be the die role query, and well, technically these should be two separate systems, one for the die roll and one for the player move input, because we'll have two queries. Well, I could just do this kind of simple because we're not going to be in this phase for more than about a frame, so yeah. The reason I was thinking that is because I can't... Well, actually, you might be able to require... Let's get a little bit fancier with this, actually. So this will be delete. So yeah, we'll just combine these two queries together. I forget you can do this. So delete query equals get entity query, and we'll have a new query description, because we're going to be a little bit more specific here. So we want it to have any of these component types. So it's the die roll result and player move input. Alright, okay, I'll clean this up a little bit. Okay, so this query will contain entities that have at least one of these components, and then we'll require that for update. Okay, and then on update, we'll just put in the post update commands to delete everything in here. I mean, yeah, this is technically a little inefficient to put this in post update commands, but this is just going to be run once, so I'm okay with it. Yeah, we'll leave it in the simulation system group. Okay, so I really don't think... Well, we might as well test it, because I really haven't used that any field super often. So let's see if it does delete all those entities that I want it to. Okay, so got the moves, spaces, pieces, and then the state. Okay, so it did delete everything. Cool. Alright, so next we need to figure out which, like, if any player is on the ending space. Let's use a job for it, why not? Okay, so this will be end turn state computer, I guess. Alright, so this will be find state worker. Okay, and what do we need here? So we're going to need to look... Well, first we need... I was going to say we need the active player, but that's not actually true. We should look at all players. And then somebody will win if they get one of their pieces to the end spot, which... they only have one piece, but... Okay, so read only public native array. So first we'll need all the pieces. Oh, no S there. And I don't know why I did that. And then we'll need all the spaces because we need to see if any pieces are on these spaces. And we can filter these spaces so that they only include ending spaces. Okay, and then once we do that, I guess we'll create an entity with the result. I might as well set that up. Okay, so struct end turn state. How to actually, so I can do it this way and then have something like bool any winner. Oops. And then it would have public int winning player. Could do this. I could also have two different end turn state. And then this would be int winning player, and then I want to have another one that's end turn inconclusive state. And then this would just signal to go to the next. Either way works, but I feel like splitting it in two is a little bit more data oriented. So maybe I'll do this. Yeah, I'm trying to just... I mean, it doesn't make sense if both of them exist. But we won't really ever have both of them exist. So, I mean, yeah, there's drawbacks to each. But let's do it this way. I think it'll be a little bit more fun. Yeah, now that I'm kind of thinking about it, I think this way is a little bit... what's the right word? Like, a little bit more work on my part, but I've already committed to it, and I think either one will work out fine, so I want to have an entity archetype for the win state message, and then an entity archetype for the inconclusive state message. Oh yeah, this should be the archetype. Alright, now when should this run? I guess it should... always just run on the flow state part. Oh yeah, I guess flow, but I meant to say cleanup phase. Okay, so the win state message archetype. So what was it? Did I call it end turn win state? And then end state, or end turn inconclusive state. Oops. Okay, and then I guess I'll need a buffer system. And the buffer system will be the begin initialization. Okay, so let's just make this all one job. We don't need to get super fancy. So I'll need all of this. Except this is just the entity command buffer. Yeah, I could make this, now I'm thinking about it, we could make this even more interesting and then check each piece in parallel. And then we'd have like the result from each of that and then check to see if any of them were in the in space. But I don't really think that saves us much time. Well, maybe it does, but again, I think that's probably overcomplicating it. Because we're not going to have like hundreds of pieces and hundreds of end spaces. So yeah. But like I said, if you wanted to, you could check each piece in parallel and then store the result in an array and then have a separate job that runs afterwards and checks to see if any of them were in a winning spot. Okay, so now for int 0 s less than spaces length. Let's split this up. So private bool is piece winning, and then private bool is piece at space. Or is piece in space. I might not need this one actually, but and then if pieces p dot space equals this ID, then we'd return true, otherwise we'll return false. Yeah, so I don't need this function. And then yeah, if piece winning, yeah, then we'll want to return, but also I shouldn't return, I should just break. Alright, so maybe we will separate this into another function. Is any piece winning? I guess we actually need to have the player ID returned, but I'll do it like this. Oh yeah, I don't need that integer argument. Okay, so if that's the case, then we set winning player ID to pieces e dot player, and then break out of that. Or no, we'd actually just return true, I guess. Okay, and then here, if is any piece winning. Why did it do that? Then we want to create the win state message. This isn't a buffer system, it's just a buffer now, so buffer dot create entity win state message archetype, and then we also need to tell it to set the component because we have to put the player index in there. Okay, otherwise, oops. You just create the inconclusive state message archetype. Okay, so now we got to feed all this information into the job. Oh yeah, so we need 2 entities, one for pieces and then one for end spaces. Or 2 entity queries. Equals get entity query component type. Read only piece. So we don't change any information on these data, we basically just read them. Read only space and end space. Okay, and I don't want to make sure that either of these exist before it updates, because I want, if either of these arrays are empty, for it to just say it's inconclusive. Which would that happen? Yeah, so if there's no players, then yeah, it would just return false. And if there's no spaces, it would also return false because it would say no pieces winning. So yeah, that works how I want it to. Alright, so now we have to get the native arrays. And it's a temp job. Okay, so even though we're getting the space components out of this query, the query will only collect entities that have space and ending space, so it's only going to give us the space data for entities that are an ending space as well, which is exactly what we want. Right, so pieces equals pieces. Spaces equals spaces. Why it chose that one. And then we could just pass through the archetypes, which, oh, these are all private. They need to be public. And the buffer equals the buffer system. Create command buffer. Okay. Oh yeah, we can also have these allocate on a job, so we might as well do that. Our piece query handle, or I usually call it depths, so we'll stick with that. Okay, and so now we need to combine all those handles together. And this just means that a separate job will fill out the data into these arrays at a later time. And we make sure that this find state worker only runs after that's been completed. And then afterwards we need to dispose of these arrays. And how you do that is just called dispose and pass them the dependencies, and it will wait to dispose them when the dependencies are complete. And then we return the dependencies to Unity so it can pass them on to the next system. Alright, and I think that's all good. Just looking through it to see if I notice any glaring issues, but let's go ahead and test it and see if the correct message does pop up. Okay, so gotta roll the dice. Okay, so it's creating messages. Or, yeah, a message every frame, but it is the correct state. And that's kind of what we expect because, yeah, it's going to run as long as turn cleanup phase exists. So we need to have a system. Okay, let's check for inconclusive states first. So this will be end turn inconclusive watcher. And what this will do for update, and it's a turn cleanup. Okay, and then we'll also need an entity query for the message query for the inconclusive messages. And I also want this to run in the initialization system group. Alright, and so the message query randomly has to recompile there, I guess. Okay, and oh yeah, we want to require for update. Okay, so on update, first we want to destroy every one of those messages because we don't need them anymore. And then we want to remove the cleanup phase. From the command entity. And then we want to add so what's, is there like a turn initialization phase? I forget. Oh yeah, the roll die initialization phase. And then we also need to move to the next player, which we can do by set component. Alright, and then we can just get the current turn phase like this. Alright, I'm just gonna hard code this in for now because yeah, we just are gonna have two players and we're just gonna cycle between them. So if you haven't seen the percent sign in programming before, it's called the modulo operator, and it basically divides a number and gives you the remainder. So if you use it on if you take something modulo 2, then this number will just keep cycling between 0 and 1 every time you add 1 to it. Which is what we want because we only have 2 players. So yeah, this is a little messy and this stuff is all hard-coded in. I'd want to maybe, if I was going to keep working on this project, I would probably have some way to like specify a turn order, but okay, so I think this is all fine. Let's go ahead and test it. So what should happen is we should be able to keep on moving, but then whenever somebody gets to the end spot, the game will start saying that it's in a winning state, and then it will freeze up until we do something about it. So now it's player 2's turn. We can roll die for them. Now it's player 1's again, and so it moves us there. 2. And so it's gonna have us move to the end. Oh, it actually said that player 1 didn't win, so that's kind of weird. I guess we just found a bug. Oh yeah, that's also a bug that they can move on top of each other. So now when you roll a die, there's no possible moves. Oh, that's interesting. So I guess, okay, that's fine. It says that since there's no moves, it just puts you on the space that you start on. So that's probably a good functionality. Okay, so what's happening is this in-state computer, there's a bug in it where it's not giving the intern, or this is never happening. There was not, yeah, no error messages. What are these numbers? Okay, that's the choice that they chose. I'll just go ahead and delete that. Yeah, oh okay, well, I shouldn't have clicked back, but now it has to compile. But anyway, so something is happening where this never returns true. It's a little interesting. Alright, I just kind of want to make sure that it's an error with the code not getting here. And not an error with something else I've done. Okay, so let's test this out. And if it keeps on saying inconclusive, then we know that there's something wrong with the logic. But if it does say win, but the game doesn't treat it as a win, then there's probably something wrong in another system. Alright, 3, 2, oops, rolling low today. Oh, not anymore. They're gonna move on top of each other. Okay, so now player 2 should have won, but it does still say inconclusive. Excuse me. So that makes me think that, yeah, there's a bug in the logic for finding the winner and not a bug in some other system. Let's try and find it. So let's just walk through. So it sees if any piece is winning, and then it loops through each piece. And then if piece is winning, then it sets the player and returns true. So this is what should happen. And then is piece winning, loops through every space. And then it checks to see if the past piece has the same space ID. Right, this... I'm gonna expand these variable names just to make sure that I didn't make an error there. Okay. Yeah, it looks like that's all right. Let's take a closer look. Yeah, to me the logic looks correct, so I'm trying to figure out I must have been passing it some bad data. So I'm going to try to figure out what's going on with that. It probably won't show me right away, will it? Yeah, it's not there yet. Okay, so the piece move. Oh no, that's not what I want. At the end turn something something. End turn state computer, but oh no, that's not it. Oh, I'm looking in the wrong system group. Okay, so here we can see. Okay, so there's two pieces. Oh, it says there's no ending spaces. Pretty sure that's not correct. I have the board game space. These are neither. This one's a starting space. This is an ending space right here. So why is it not showing up in the entity query? This is a strange bug. Yeah, because we see clearly there's an ending space here. Why does it say player 14 though? Okay, so yeah, this ending space doesn't need to have a player field. When I remove that, does that cause an error? No. Okay, and then... yeah, oh, okay, add chunk component data. That must be... okay, that was a weird thing. Why is it not like that? Add component data. Oh. I don't want a native array. Well, it's telling me I can remove this, but last time I did, it gave an error. Oh, I can remove this part. Well, I'll just leave it. Okay, so that chunk component data, yeah, that's a whole nother can of worms that we're not really using in this project. But basically you can set some data for the entire chunk that the entity is on, and in that case I guess the query won't recognize it. So yeah, what was happening was that the entity wasn't being tagged as an end space, even though it showed up here. So yeah, the system's not showing up yet until it runs at least once. Alright, so now we can look. Intern state computer. Yeah, so the ending space does show up there now, so theoretically it should work. Okay. Oh yeah, so now it's gonna infinitely create the intern win state. Okay, well that's good. I was like, none of this code is looking bad. I don't know what the problem is, but... Alright, so now we're gonna create basically a copy of this intern inconclusive watcher, except it will, instead of starting a next turn, it will just go straight to the results phase, which I think will just print the winning player on the screen. for now. I don't know why I was trying to go into Unity. Actually, I don't need to go there yet. Alright, so just another simple component system, and this will be end, turn, win, watcher. Did I copy it already? Got distracted. Alright. So it's going to be about the same, except instead of looking for the inconclusive messages, we'll want to look for the win messages. And again, we'll destroy them, except we actually need to get the winning player first. So int winning player. I don't have to do it like this. So first we need to get all the messages. So it's kind of roundabout to get data out of the query, but to component data array and turn win state. And yeah, even though we're just going to use this temporarily in this function, we still have to tag it as temp job because behind the scenes Unity will fill this data out with a job. And then the winning player, we're just gonna use the first message in the array. And then we'll dispose of this messages. Okay, so now we'll destroy all the entities in the query. We remove the turn cleanup. We need to remove the turn phase. And then we need to add the results phase, which I guess should also have the winning player. And we can't have ties in this game, so that makes it a little simpler. Okay, so we'll add new results phase, winning player equals winning player. Okay, and I'm just gonna have, well, trying to think about how I want to do this. I could just have this watcher itself tell the UI. Let's do something a little better, I guess. Okay, so let's call this results UI updater. And okay, I can go in simulation. Okay, and first off we're going to want to get a reference to the UI manager. Rid of that. Which we can get pretty simply this way, again using the game object find object of type. And we'll require, oh, okay. Just had to think a bit there. Okay, so I'm actually going to be a little bit more Well, okay, there's two ways I could do this. Let's see. We do have quite a bit of time, so maybe we can do this the cleaner way. Okay, so I think I'll create a component that will just be update results UI message. And then this wind will just, or this will just create an entity with that on it. I guess to be good, I should make this archetype here. It's UI, UI message archetype. Create archetype, type of, what was that, results, UI, update, message, something like that. Okay. And then we'll just create that here. Probably be better if I did it at the beginning of the next frame. Yeah, because messages, you don't want it, the thing that's watching the message, to miss it. But I don't know if I really have to worry about it right now. Okay, let's just, create entity, and then I'll pass the archetype. Okay, and what I'm gonna do here is, I know we haven't really been using it before, but I think this is just a better idea. Although if I'm going to use... Oh, let's not worry about it. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. But like usually when you make messages, it's usually better to tag them all with like an iMessage. Or not iMessage, like a message component, and then just have one system destroy all of your messages at the end of a frame. But we don't really need that for this project. If we were going to make it any more feature rich, we'd probably want to do it. But yeah, I don't want to get super complicated. Okay, so then we're going to need an entity query for the message. And message query equals get entity query. Read only, update, results, UI message. And then we'll require this query for update, which means that this message has to exist. Or there has to be some entity with this component for update to run. And yeah, we'll want to remove all these messages. Oh wait, not remove component, we'll want to destroy entity. And then we want to call UI. Oh, I haven't made the function yet, but let's just say show results. Okay, we need to pass it the winning player, which would be get singleton. We could also even include this in the message, but okay, so now the good thing about doing it this way is we're going to stay in the results phase for a while, but it won't keep on telling the UI to update every frame, which is probably good because usually updating UI is kind of slow. Alright, and so we're going to need another text for this. And normally the win text can be hidden. Okay, and so here we can set it to be shown. And then we'll set the text. Alright, and then also here I should increment this by 1 so that it's more human readable. And I think that's about it. I could hide all this stuff. I don't know if it really matters. Okay, I'm waiting for it to recompile. Okay, so now we just need to create the text real quick. UI text. Let's just call this the win text. I'll just keep it black. We'll make it a lot bigger. Oops. I'm going to add a content size fitter because I just want the size of this element to fit the size of the text. Okay, there we go. So now it shows up. Make it pretty huge. Okay, that's better. Okay, and then on the panel, which has the UI manager, I just need to set this text in there. And I think we should be good. So let's go ahead and try it out. Alright, so we roll the die. Slow rolls up here. Okay, yeah, then player 1 wins. And I can't do anything else, which is good. Let me look and see if the state here makes sense. So we're in the results phase with a winning player. There's a couple pieces. Alright, everything else looks good. Alright, let's try it again and see if we can get player 2 to win. Just to see what happens. I think this game is really oh gosh. Yeah, it's really weighted for player 1 to win because the first player that goes basically gets an extra roll. Yeah, so yeah, this game is not great balance-wise, but again, I just kind of wanted to showcase how you'd go about making a board game. Oh. That's not right, is it? Oh, this is player 1, okay. But yeah, you can see you can use this as like a framework to go almost any type of game you would want. That just has to do with simple moving pieces on a board. Actually, it would be pretty easy to change the layout of the board too, because all you have to do is create more mono behaviors and change up their neighbors and stuff. So I'm pretty happy about that. Okay, so roll dice. I'm gonna try this a couple more times, but if I can't get player 2 to win, maybe I'll have it cheat. Oh my gosh, okay. Let's go to the dice roller. Where is it? Okay, and then if get Singleton, turn, phase, active player equals 0. Then we'll always have the first player roll 1. Oop. Yeah, we don't want the if there, actually. And then let's have red player roll 6. Recompile. Alright, okay, so rolling 1 and 6. Okay, so yeah, it does say player 2 wins. I just wanted to make sure. Alright. Well, there's more we could do here, obviously. Like I originally wanted to have it so that if player 1 moves on top of player 2, then player 2 would move back to the start space. And some other like more complicated board and everything, but this project's already gone way over what I thought, so I think I'll go ahead and call this project complete. But anyway, I hope that the requester of a board game has learned a little bit from this, and of course everybody else. And if you have any questions about it, just ask me. I'll be putting this code onto my GitHub page, so you can look at it there probably in the next few days, so if you're interested in that, look out for it. But I think I'll go switch over to my other project, the Twitch interactive card game, and we'll finish out the stream with that. So in the meantime, while Unity's loading, I think I'll go get something to drink, so I'll take a short break. But yeah, see you in a second.